So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here by BSN Network. You get back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Tuesday, January 18th. Hopefully everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Tuesday, January 18th here today, coming off another big night in sports last night. Big day in sports, I should say, as we had a lot of hockey and basketball throughout the day yesterday, and it was capped off with the Rams-Cardinals game that was just not a good game. It was bad. It was ugly. It was everything that could have went wrong for the Arizona Cardinals went wrong, and everything that could have went right for the Rams and their offense and Odell Beckham and all them went right. And I mean, it was just one of those games where the Cardinals were just outmanned, and the Rams were just the better team, and that's the simplest way I could put it. There's no other way to put it. There's no, this and that. It's the Rams were the better football team. They played better. They had more talent. They had all their assets. Cardinals were without DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler Murray was running for his life every other play. Although he only got sacked twice, he was under pressure, it seemed, every other snap. He made some bad mistakes, and it was just a bad game for the Cardinals and a very good game for the Rams. So Rams get the win, and they move on, and they play the Buccaneers, which should be a pretty good matchup. Definitely an intriguing matchup in Tampa Bay. So I'm super excited for that one. Super excited for all the divisional round games in both the AFC and the NFC. I think there's some really good matchups in the AFC. Bengals, Titans, I think is going to be a good game. Bills, Chiefs is, I think, the headliner of them all. And then you have the Packers, Niners, and the Buccaneers, Rams. So that's now the divisional slate set up, and we'll find out how everything goes over the weekend. 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. I believe it's the Bills and the I could check the schedule here. So it's the Titans and the Bengals to start off. Then it's the Packers, Niners. So Titans, Bengals on Saturday, and Packers, Niners as well on Saturday. Then on Sunday it will be the Rams, Bucks, and the Bills, Chiefs. So those are the 2 games on Saturday and the 2 games on Sunday. So Bengals, Titans, Packers, Niners on Saturday, and Sunday is the Bucks, Rams, and the Bills, Chiefs are your games. So should be excited. I'm pumped up for it. Always an exciting time of year. Anyway, to get back to some of the other sports and what went on yesterday, because I'm going to get to the Rams-Cardinals recap. I'll go a little bit more in depth, so I don't want to say everything now and then not have anything to talk about when the topic comes around. But as for, yesterday in the world of sports and in the world of New York sports, Nets took another tough loss against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. I'm not optimistic at where this team's headed without Kevin Durant, right? Down the stretch yesterday, we played some really sloppy basketball. It was ugly. It was poor. It was as bad as it could get. Really sloppy, really bad basketball, and everything that we said could have went wrong and could have happened for the Nets without Kevin Durant happened yesterday. Bad turnovers, not getting big shots, not getting back on the defensive end, letting the Cavaliers just getting fast break after fast break after fast break and converting. Turnovers down the stretch, bad passes by James Harden. It was just ugly. It was bad. And the fact that we still almost won the game is out of this world wild. And the Nets and Steve Nash and this team needs to figure something out. Because right now, we are not playing anywhere near where we need to be. And right now, we look like an average basketball team that's fighting for a playoff spot. That's what we look like right now. And that's not a good thing. This should be a team that should be looking like a team that's going to win it all. Right now, this looks like an average basketball team that's still trying to find their identity. And that shouldn't be the case. I don't want to hear, last season you played together. You had the playoffs. I get it. The Big Three has only played 16 games, right? But still, there's no excuses. You had all of the offseason. This should not be happening. Just terrible. And the Nets take another bad loss yesterday to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And now they dropped to third in the East. And sure, they're only a half game out, so very well tomorrow night if they beat the Spurs, they're Wizards rather, sorry. If they beat the Wizards tomorrow night, they could be right back in the 2 seed. But right now they're 3 seed. That should not be the case. Nets are tumbling and falling fast, and things need to change. Things need to happen if this team wants to keep their head above water. And when Kevin Durant comes back, we are not finding ourselves as a 5 seed and needing to fight for our lives all of a sudden. That can't be the case. So, tough loss yesterday for the Nets. Rangers had another day off. They'll have another day off tonight. And tomorrow night, they'll play the Toronto Maple Leafs back at home after the long road trip that wrapped up in Philly on Saturday. As I mentioned yesterday, I was at that game against the Flyers on Saturday. It was a very good game. It was an excellent game. Had a blast. Had a great time. It was good to see a Rangers win. Good to see it in person. And so you hope that tomorrow they can extend that streak and get another win against a good Maple Leafs team back at the Garden, which seems like we have not played at home in forever, but tomorrow night, we'll be back at the Garden against the Maple Leafs. Alrighty, and the Islanders finish up their home and home series today against the Flyers. Yesterday, they played against the Flyers at home, and today they play against the Flyers on the road. So yesterday, Islanders took the win. It's a little back-to-back, home and home. So Islanders were home yesterday. Flyers are home tonight. So Flyers, Islanders as well for your hockey. And for the NBA, Knicks are the second half of a back-to-back against the Timberwolves as they look to bounce back from a tough loss yesterday with the day game they had against the Hornets. Julius Randle continues to struggle, continues to play bad, continues to get continues to hear trade rumors around the league, and I don't disagree with fans that are frustrated with his performance. I'm going to try to get to Julius Randle and talk about him within the next couple days here. I want to get to some Knicks stuff. I know I've got to the Nets a lot recently, so I want to definitely get to some Knicks and talk about Randle and what's going on in the world of the New York Knicks. But anyway, with all that being said, a lot on tonight. Obviously, Nets, Rangers aren't on, my 2 favorite teams, but still some good college basketball, some good NHL, and some NBA games on as well. Alrighty, so only 2 NBA games on, but still local Knicks team on tonight. Alrighty, so let's get to the topics for today's podcast. As I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, Cardinals-Rams will be the first one up. I'll recap the game, give you what you need to know. It was a blowout. It was ugly. It wasn't good. It was bad. It was 21-0 going to halftime. Game was over. I can make the argument the game was over before it started. I predicted, the Rams to win. I thought the Cardinals were going to bring up a little bit better of a fight. I did predict the Rams to win by 11. I said 31-20. They won 34-11. So I didn't have them winning by 23, but I did have them winning by 11. I was honestly surprised that the Cardinals played the way they did. I thought they were going to bring up a little bit more of a fight. I think we all knew going to the game that this Cardinals team was just too undermanned to go up against a Rams team that's a Super Bowl contender. They're without Hopkins. J.J. Watt's back, but he wasn't at full strength, and that was clearly on display. Budda Baker got hurt in the game, which, good thing to see him okay. Scary injury, had to get carted off, which is never a good sign, but he is okay. He flew back to Arizona today, stayed overnight at a local, I believe, hospital in the Los Angeles, Inglewood area near the stadium, so it was good to see he is okay. He's back, I believe at this point he's back in Arizona, but you lost him during the game. Yeah, obviously J.J. Watt's back, but he wasn't 100%. You're without DeAndre Hopkins, like Kyler Murray didn't play well, like everything. It was like the Cardinals were against it all. So I'll get into it. I'll talk about it. It was ugly. I also want to get to some Cardinals offseason stuff. Cliff Kingsbury future with the team. Is this team really is this roster really capable of taking that next step in truly being a true contender? Because they were hurt. But is it truly ready to take that next step? Are the Cardinals really constructed, and are they really in a position where they believe that their future, is in place and that they believe this is it? Or do they need to find a new coach and maybe reset a little bit? I'll talk about that a little bit as well. Raiders fired Mike Mayock as well. So GM of the Raiders is out. So after 3 seasons with the team and posting a 25-24 record as GM, he is out. So Raiders, the situation over there is definitely interesting. Crazy just 2 weeks ago. This time last week, we were talking about, can Rick Bisaccia and Derek Carr go on a run? It's crazy what a couple days can make, what a week can make a difference. And, Raiders get rid of their GM, Mike Mayock, who was obviously hired by Gruden, who resigned earlier in the season with the whole emails and the scandals like that. So I won't get into much of that. We all know what happened there. But I want to get into Mike Mayock, want to get into the GM, and where do the Raiders go from here? Are the Raiders maybe pointing towards a possible rebuild? I'll get to that in the second topic, and then I'll also get to the New York sports update to finish off the podcast. Islanders and Knicks on tonight. Islanders second half of a back-to-back. Knicks also second half of a back-to-back. Islanders in Philly to play the Flyers, and the Knicks at home at the Garden for the second straight game against the Timberwolves, who are a very sneaky good team, sneaky solid team this season in the NBA. All right, with all that being said, a lot to get to today on the podcast. This is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. All righty, so the Rams and the Cardinals obviously took place last night. Rams got the big win, 34-23, winning by 23 points. So the Rams moved to 1-0 in the postseason. Obviously, no shock there. Cardinals are eliminated, and the Rams now move on. We now know who the Bucs play. Bucs will play the Rams 3 Eastern on Sunday in Tampa Bay, which I think is going to be a super exciting game. I'm really pumped up for that game. It's going to be exciting. I think that's going to be, I can make the argument that it might be, maybe outside of the Bills-Chiefs, probably could be the best game of the weekend. You have a Buccaneers team that we all know, Tom Brady, and going for back-to-back, and you have a Rams team with Matt Stafford and Sean McVay, and it seems like they're firing on all cylinders. It seems like they're really clicking at the right time. We saw that on full display last night. And look, right, we knew going into this game. Now, before I get to any of this, Wild Card Weekend, I know there's a lot of people out there that were upset with Wild Card Weekend. And I will say myself, I'm a little upset with some of the way the games played out. I was hoping the Bills-Patriots game was much closer. I thought that was going to be a really good game. It wasn't. It was terrible. Bills won by 30, right? The Buccaneers-Eagles game, I was rooting for the Eagles. I don't want to see Tom Brady get to another one. You know how I am. That wasn't even close. Steelers-Chiefs we expected. But I'm going to be a kind of glass half full guy, and then I'll get to the game here in a minute. You look back at Wild Card Weekend. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it was awful, it was terrible. And I understand it wasn't the best weekend. You got to hope that the divisional round, AFC Championship, and NFC Championship is all better. And you got to hope the Super Bowl is better than a 34-11 victory. You got to hope the Super Bowl is better than last year. I hate when Super Bowls are blowouts, right? All the anticipation, the 2 weeks of hype up and anticipation. You get ready, the whole day of pregame. You get ready for kickoff, and boom, halftime, it's a 20-point lead, and game's over. So you hope the Super Bowl's close. But you look at it from my perspective, Patriots got crushed, they're eliminated. So that's a positive to me, right? You had a good game against the Bengals. Raiders was a good game. Niners, Cowboys was a good game. I don't like the Steelers. They got eliminated. And I went 5-1 on my game picks. So I kind of feel like for me, it wasn't a terrible weekend considering Patriots got crushed, which if you're a Jets fan, you always like to see. Tom Brady did crush the Eagles, which you don't like to see if you're a Jets fan, but it is what it is. Steelers lost. I don't like the Steelers, and I root for the Chiefs. I like Mahomes. I'll root for them if they're in the playoffs. And then you have 2 good games in the Bengals, Raiders, and the Niners, Cowboys. Last night was a blowout. It was terrible, but Rams move on, and I think the Rams create a better matchup against the Bucs than the Cardinals would. If the Cardinals would have went down in Tampa, I think it would have been a terrible matchup. Rams, Bucs, I think is a much better matchup than if the Cardinals would have won last night and would have had to go down to Tampa shorthanded, not full strength, against a Buccaneers team that could be getting healthier this week, which I think makes that game so much more anticipating. There's so much more anticipation going into that game just because of the fact that the Bucs might be getting healthier and they could be getting closer back to full strength. And we saw a Bucs team last weekend, not full strength, put up 31 points and make the Eagles look silly. Just imagine full strength, they could be way better. Either way, more to the game last night, right? I've said this many times already today on the video. The Rams going into last night's game were the healthier team. They were the more talented football team. They were the more experienced football team. They were just the better, well-prepared. You go into the game and you line the two teams up and you say, Rams, they got everything going for them. And last night, that was the case. The Rams did not budge. The Rams did not, make this thing where it was like, oh, are the Rams going to get caught looking ahead? They didn't. They beat a team that they should have beat, and that was the Arizona Cardinals. And going into last night's game, we knew it, right? The Cardinals were undermanned. They were not healthy. They had injuries throughout the game. J.J. Watt just coming back from an injury. You don't really know how full. He could have said, oh, I'm ready to go. But realistically, I don't think he was still 100%. And I think he would even say that. Maybe not publicly, maybe not on the media, but I think he would even agree he was not fully 100%. He got back out there so he could play with his teammates and he could battle, one more time with them and try to get to the next round and hope that he could get healthier and healthier and healthier as the playoffs went. But they're without DeAndre Hopkins. And I've said this entire time. Cardinals started the season 7-0. They looked like they were playing together well, offensively, defensively. Defense showing you a lot of positive signs. Budda Baker playing well. You had Isaiah Simmons, who struggled in his rookie year, really looking better. They were using him the right way. Despite J.J. Watt being down, you had other guys step up. You had Kyler Murray looking like a true, big-time quarterback. DeAndre Hopkins, even though he was hurt a little bit, when he was out there making a huge impact. When last night, when I was watching that game, I said to myself, if the Cardinals had DeAndre Hopkins, this would be a completely different ball game. And I truly believe that. And I understand football's a team sport. You need 11 guys to go out there and perform at the highest level and win. I get that. But when you're talking about quarterback to receiver, and this is why today, there's a lot of blame on Kyler Murray. There's a lot of, oh, is he really the guy? Oh, Kyler Murray stinks. Kyler Murray's this. He's good against bad opponents. There's a lot of that today. And I disagree with that. Kyler Murray played bad, don't get me wrong. He played terrible. There's no other way to put it. He threw for 176 yards and 2 interceptions, including the one that was a pick six. Right? He played bad, don't get me wrong. But when he was pressured like he was, he didn't have any time in the pocket, and you're missing your number one receiver, what did you really expect the Arizona Cardinals to do last night? What did you really expect? What did you expect out of Kyler Murray? We've seen this already. They started the season 7-0. Hopkins goes down. Oh no, they're 4-7, and they get crushed in the wild card round. Start the season 7-0. They finish 4-7, and they get blown out last night by 23 to the Rams without DeAndre Hopkins. If the Cardinals had DeAndre Hopkins last night, I'm not saying they would have won, but we might be talking about a 34-31 loss instead of a 34-11 loss. Because a lot of times when quarterbacks sometimes are pressured and they're struggling, they might not have a groove or they can't find any consistency. Sometimes all they need is to throw to a guy they rely on and get a couple passes to him, kind of just get your confidence back and get going and start finding a rhythm. Kyler Murray had nobody to do that last night. He's had nobody around him to do that at all. I mean, Christian Kirk was the leading receiver with 51 yards. Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore. You had Zach Ertz. They couldn't really get the ball to Zach Ertz. A.J. Green. They couldn't get the ball to him. He had 3 targets. He did not have a catch last night. He had 3 targets, no catches. They just were not able to really get it. Like, Kyler Murray had no real connection last night. And when you're struggling and you need first downs and you need yards and you need to get something going, sometimes all you need is to get 2 passes. Even if it's short 5-yard passes. Even if it's 2 short, comeback routes by Hopkins, just to get your confidence going. Kyler Murray had nobody last night to do that. And he's had nobody to do that since Hopkins went down. And that's why the Cardinals finished the year like they did. And that's why they looked the way they did last night. They had no DeAndre Hopkins, and that's huge. And I'm not trying to make excuses for Kyler Murray. But the numbers are there to tell you. When Kyler Murray is Hopkins, he's a much better quarterback. When he doesn't, he's an ant quarterback. But that could be said for a lot of guys in the NFL. When you give quarterback weapons, they're really good, and when you take their weapons away, they're really bad. That could be said with a lot of guys in the NFL. I can make the argument, just to keep it, kind of, within the AFC East and all that. I mean, I know the Cardinals aren't in the AFC East, but just to, give you a big name, Josh Allen. His first 2 years of his career were nothing special. First season, he really struggled. Second season was better, but still not first round, still not 7th overall, I believe, pick, I think he was worthy. They got him Stephon Diggs, and he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league the past 2 seasons. And you can make the argument this year he's been the best quarterback. Maybe only outside of Aaron Rodgers. That's a different discussion, different day. I definitely strongly agree that Josh Allen's top 2 in the league this year. Look at the numbers. They tell you everything. Because they got him a number 1 receiver. Last night, Kyler Murray looked lost because they did not have DeAndre Hopkins. And that's what happens when you take away a number one receiver from a quarterback. That's just the reality of it all. So I feel like, and I wanted to make that clear, like, I feel like today Kyler Murray's getting a lot of hate. And don't get me wrong, he played bad. But if he had Hopkins, I think this would have been a completely different ball game. And it's shown that way the past couple weeks. And who knows where the Cardinals go from here. Because this has been a Cardinals team. Even when they had Hopkins last season, I will agree. Even when they had Hopkins last season, they struggled. They have struggled down the stretch. And that's sometimes, I don't know if that's a sign of poor coaching or just players kind of getting caught looking ahead or down the stretch, you kind of get lazy a little bit and you're like, we're in the playoffs, who cares? Like I said, I don't think players are saying that, but there is that sense of, like, is Cliff Kingsbury and his coaching staff and this Cardinals roster good enough to get to that next level? Because Kyler Murray's first season, what did they go? Like 5-10-1, or did they tie? I think it was something like that. I think they tied. It was something like that. They didn't play well. Kingsbury first year, Kyler Murray's first year. The expectation going into the season wasn't to win 11 games and win the Super Bowl. Last season, the expectation was to be much improved. They got Hopkins, right? You already have Edmonds and all that stuff. There was definitely that sense of to go in, Kirk. You already have, you have options. You have weapons. They won 8 games. They won 8-8 last season, and they lost, I believe, 3 out of their last 4 last year, or it was something like that. Or they started the season, I think, 5-2. Out of their bye week, they finished 3-6. So they started the season last year 5-2, came out of their bye week 3-6. This season started the season 7-0. And it finished the year 4-7, which included, I believe, final 4 games. They lost 3 of their final 4, I think, or something like that to end the year, and then the wild card blowout last night. And sometimes it's a sign of this team might be missing 1 or 2 pieces, or it could be a sign of this coach Cliff Kingsbury is not the guy to get them to that next level. He can only get them so far, and the past 2 seasons, it's shown. Like maybe the true colors of Cliff Kingsbury have shown the past 2 seasons, where he can only get this team to this level of play. Can't get him any higher. It's reached the max. It could try its hardest to break through and be better, but we've seen the last season they struggled down the stretch. This year they struggled down the stretch. It's like they start off strong, they look legit, and it's just like everything takes a tumble. And maybe that's just maybe that's a little bit of a lack of talent on the roster. Maybe it's coaching. I don't know what it is. But what I will tell you is this. Cardinals do have some questions going into the offseason. Is Cliff Kingsbury truly the guy? I don't know if you want to you could put all the blame on him. You could put all the blame on Kyler Murray, whatever you want to do. Still a question there. Because he's gotten this team here. He hasn't gone into that next level. And they added Hopkins, couldn't get there. Kyler Murray's still developing, into another year, couldn't get there. It's like there's all signs should be pointing towards progress and getting better. And it's like the Cardinals are kind of just here. They're just here. They're here and they are stuck here. And that's not a good sign. So maybe the Cardinals do get rid of Murray. Or not Murray, I'm sorry, Cliff Kingsbury. My bad. Believe me, they're not getting rid of Kyler Murray. And if they do, I think that's extremely dumb. I could give you a million reasons why. I'm not going to get into that because that's just a dumb topic. But to my point, Cliff Kingsbury, maybe they do get rid of him. Maybe they find that he's not the guy to propel them completely to that next level. Or maybe they just think it's a lack of talent. Maybe they bring in another receiver, add on a little bit to the defense, just bring in a little bit more talent. I don't think the Cardinals need to do anything drastic this offseason. I don't think they need to just blow it all up. If you fire Clint Kingsbury, I guess that'd be considered, you'd have to get rid of the coach staff and stuff, but I don't think they should blow it all up, get rid of everything and just restart. There's no need to, because they're here right now. They just need to find a way to add a little bit more, and then they can get, to where they want to. And we thought they were there in the when they started off 7-0, but they weren't. And we thought the same thing last year when they started off 5-2, but they finished 8-8 and missed the playoffs last year. So it's like they're just stuck they're stuck right here, and they can't get any better. I guess you could say there was improvement this year. But if you really break up the seasons, last year was very similar to this season. They started off strong last year, finished weak. Started off strong this year, finished weak. That's not a good sign. It should be start off strong, finish weak, and maybe start off strong and finish strong. And find a way. Like, I think too, just going 4-7 after you starting off 7-0 makes this wild card loss that much more questionable. Like, is Cliff Kingsbury the guy? That's a question. But definitely some things that the Cardinals need to address this offseason. I think one of them is depth behind DeAndre Hopkins. Because Hopkins does have a little bit of injury history, and when he's out, they're just not the same team. So I think one of the needs that the Cardinals need to do, and maybe, who knows, right? Rondale Moore is only a rookie, so you get him some more snaps. If he continues to develop, maybe he can become a true number 2. But I think you do need some better depth behind Hopkins. Because right now, it's Christian Kirk, who's average, and it was a rookie receiver in Rondale Moore, and a tight end in Zach Ertz that's not the player he once was. That's not great for a receiver that is a little bit of injury prone in DeAndre Hopkins. I think the issue with the Cardinals too a little bit this year is they put all their chips in on Hopkins playing the full year and performing out every week, and that simply wasn't the case. And we saw when Hopkins went down, they just didn't have enough behind him. So I think definitely the Cardinals need to look at somebody behind Hopkins because Christian Kirk, like I said, is average. And Rondale Moore's a rookie, and you have Zach Ertz, who's not the same player he once was. So if you can bring in a true number 2, or hope that Rondale Moore turns into a true, receiver and a true guy that could really make a difference, that's an option. I think, you can always do upgrades on defense, never an issue. And I know they're going up against a really good pass rush last night, but, their offensive line was brutal. I know Kyler Murray only got sacked 2 times, but still, that's not good. And as for the Rams, look, like I said, I wanted to talk a lot about the Cardinals because the Rams we'll get to later on in the week and stuff, and we're going to talk about them. And this was expected for the Rams. We expect them to win. I didn't expect them to win by this much of a margin. I thought the Cardinals would show a little bit of life. They were lifeless last night. There's no other way. They were lifeless. They scored 11 points in the second half, and the Rams scored 21 in the first half. So, it's not even like you could say, remove the first half and the Cardinals play. Well, no, remove the first half and the Cardinals still lose 13-11. So this wasn't good enough. And the Rams, they move on to the Bucs, and I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. And look, Matt Stafford, Sean McVay, I was skeptical at first just because I thought Stafford wasn't the same player, but they've surrounded him with Cooper Kupp. Beckham had a nice game. I don't like Beckham, but I got to give credit where credit's due. He had a nice game yesterday. Tyler Higbee getting involved a little bit, right? Doing what they need to do. Cam Akers has been a big boost. Sony Michel as well. It's been a really good combo. In Cam Akers and Sony Michel. 2 high-speed, energetic, athletic running backs in the backfield. Definitely, I think, one of the more underrated duos right now. And Sony Michel, usually it's Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers, but I think you can make the argument Sony Michel's even been a little bit better in terms of just bringing that bolt of energy, needing a couple yards, and him getting those 5-6 yards and a whole lot more. He had a big 35-yard burst last night. Cam Akers' longest run was 15. Matthew Stafford also had a touchdown rush. So let's look at some of the more advanced, let's look at some of the stats here. Stafford only threw the ball 17 times, which is crazy because they ran the ball a ton. Between Akers and Michel, they ran the ball 30 times. And then Funk, which is the other running back, had 2 carries and Stafford had 6. So between all them, they ran the ball 38 times and they only passed 17. So, hey, they ran the ball a lot. And sure, some of that was juicing the clock late, but they relied heavily on the run. And I think that set the tone early, which is something that you definitely want to look for, next week. Last thing you want is to have Tom Brady on offense a lot, and that's the issue with the Eagles. Their defense actually kind of got a little bit better throughout the game, but the more and more Tom Brady's out there, the less and less you have a chance to win. So if they can establish the run game next week early against a good Bucs defense and run the ball like they did last night, they would set themselves up for a really good chance at beating the Bucs. But Stafford went 13 of 17, 202 yards. His average per throw was 15.5. So in the throws, the 13 times that he did have completions, they were pretty long. He had 2 touchdowns. He did not have a pick. He only got sacked once and at a rating of 154.5. Beckham also had a pass. He went 1 for 1, 40 yards, and he had a rating of 118.8. So Beckham getting some action in there in the passing game. Rushing, Sony Michel had 13 carries for 58 yards, no touchdown, but he did have a big 35-yard run. Cam Akers also adding on to that total with 17 carries for 55 yards, 15 was the longest run. Stafford had a rushing touchdown. And as for receiving, Cooper Kupp and Beckham both had touchdowns. Cooper Kupp had 7 targets, 5 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. And Beckham had 4 targets and caught all 4 of those for 54 yards and a touchdown, including a 40-yard pass. So Beckham, Kupp, like I said, spread the wealth, and they did that last night, and that's all they needed to do. Cardinals, as I kind of touched base a little bit earlier, I'll get a little bit more into it here. Kyler Murray went 19 of 34 for 137 yards, 7.2 was his average per throw, no touchdowns, had 2 bad picks, got sacked twice, and had a rating of 40.9. And Chase Edmonds had 28 rushing yards. James Conner had 4 carries for 19 yards and a touchdown. And the leading receiver was Christian Kirk, who had 6 catches for 51 yards. You look at the Rams' leading receiver, it's funny because no receivers actually had big games. Christian Kirk had 51 yards, and the leading receiver for the Rams was Cooper Kupp, who had 61. So there was no big 150-yard receiver with 2 touchdowns. It was kind of like a tough, gritty game where they ran the ball, and they passed when they need to, and when they passed, they executed it well, and Rams got the win. So Rams head down to Tampa Bay and play the Buccaneers next weekend. Stafford versus Brady. That's going to be fun to watch. I'm definitely excited for that. And as for the Cardinals, they go into an offseason definitely with some questions surrounding Kingsbury and kind of the roster in general, but we'll see what they do. Maybe they say, hey, add a little bit more talent and we'll see next season. And maybe that's what they do. Maybe the Cardinals say to Kingsbury, look, if we see you guys start off 5-0 this season and end up only winning 9 games, ending the season 4-7 or something, if you start, or something like that, or like they did last time, they went 7-0 and finished the season 4-7, and they won 11-7 or 11-6, or 7-0, then they finished 4-7. So you look at that, they finished the year, the way they did. They finished total 11-7 in the regular season. They went 11-6. And, all that, this year, let's just say they start off 5-0, and then they all of a sudden lose whatever, and they finish 9-7. Or 9-8, rather. Possibility. We'll see. But, if that's the case, and they finish 9-8 and maybe barely squeak in and get crushed in a wild card round next year, you got to get rid of Kingsbury. But if they add a little bit more talent, maybe they say Cliff Kingsbury, like, hey, look, we got to see progress. We got to see, consistent play throughout the season. None of this start off 5-0. Everybody's talking about, this and that and Super Bowl and all that, and then go into the playoffs 9-8. I don't want to see that. I want to see start off strong, go into the playoffs strong, healthy, and win. Even if they don't win next season at all, even if they win the wild card round and make it interesting in the divisional round, that's progress. Because right now, what we see is a team that's starting off strong, and then they just run out of gas, and that's not a good sign. So we'll see. But anyway, that's what I got for the Rams and the Cardinals. Like I said, hopefully the divisional round is definitely a little bit better than the wild card round. It did go 5-1, and like I said, I think there was some positives. I like the Steelers got crushed. I didn't want them to win. I'm glad that the Patriots got crushed. You don't want to see them win. I was hoping that game was good, but still good to see Belichick and the Patriots lose. Buccaneers, was bad. Raiders, Bengals was good. Cowboys, Niners, definitely the best game, and I don't think you can make an argument about that. That was the best game of the weekend. Although it was a very questionable play-calling type game for the Cowboys, it was one of the best games. It was the best game of the weekend. And right now, Cowboys-Niners, the best game of the playoffs. Will that change next weekend? I'm hopeful, optimistic, and I expect that next weekend we get some better games. I expect next weekend at least 3 of the 4 games to be the good ones. Not going to say which 3 of the 4 because that's kind of spoils my picks and what I think. But all I'm going to say is I could see, about 3 of the 4, actually about 2 to 3 of the, about 2 of the 4 games next week, and I see being really good ones. And the other 2, I could see one of them being good. The other one, I don't think that team has much of a chance. But I'll get to that on Friday when I do my game picks. But alrighty, so coming up next, some more NFL news. The Raiders, who just got eliminated on Saturday, just eliminated their GM. Yesterday, the Raiders officially moved on from Mike Mayock. They fire him after 3 seasons with the team and went 25 and 24 as he and many other expected within the Raiders are out. So Mike Mayock, GM, is out. I'm going to talk about this and talk about the future of Derek Carr, and could the Raiders be kind of lining up, looking towards a little bit of a restart and a little bit of a rebuild. I'll get to that coming up next. Alright, so welcome you back here, and we got news yesterday from the Raiders that Mike Mayock fired as Raiders GM after 25 and 24 record over 3 seasons with the team, and obviously a lot going on in Vegas, and this just goes to show you how sports can change fast. And that's why sometimes I say on, like days like this where I'll say, oh, tomorrow I'll talk about this. You never really know, because breaking news, trades, stuff happens in sports that you don't always expect. And I don't really know if I want to say nobody saw this coming. This does come by a little bit of a surprise, but I think we also kind of saw it coming too, because it was kind of under the Gruden administration. He obviously resigned early in the season due to some of the, due to some off the field issues. So it was kind of like set up where, if Rick Bisaccia's gone, they get rid of the staff, a new coach comes in. It's like all the chips were lining up to, they're probably just going to clear house and restart. But they decide officially to move on from Mike Mayock. And like I said, it's crazy how sports can change, because this time last week, we were talking about Raiders-Bengals and the Raiders beating the Chargers in the, in the wild final game of Week 18, final game of the season, in the wild, Chargers-Raiders game. And we were all talking about that and, talking about, Rick Bisaccia and the Raiders and Derek Carr finally going to make his first playoff start, and then they lose to the Bengals, and now we're talking about today, them firing their GM, and truly, with this move happening and more than likely Rick Bisaccia not returning as coach, obviously he was the interim coach, and no matter what happens to Rick Bisaccia, whether, he's not the coach next season, whether he's with another team, whether he gets another chance, he did an excellent job. He stepped into a tough situation, took a team that, was doing well and had a lot of issues. You had, Gruden resign, then you had, Henry Ruggs, his incident really could take a toll on the locker room. He was able to keep the players together, keep them close, and he was able to lead them. I believe he went 7-5 to finish out the year, got them to the playoffs, and look, they lost, but they competed in the wild card game, and the fact that they got there after everything they went through this season, the fact that they got there and they went they were 6-7, they won 4 straight, finished the season 10-7, had the thriller in the final game of the season. The fact that they got there, definitely, I think teams around the league, whether the Raiders, whatever happens with him with the Raiders, but I don't think he's coming back. But I think the Raiders are going to want a new face, especially if they fire their GM. They're going to want a new face. But whatever happens, I think Rick Bisaccia does deserve another opportunity as a least assistant or maybe another coach, because he truly showed a lot of positive signs for a locker room that very easily. It's very rare to have your coach resign. I know you have mid-year firings, but it's different to have your coach resign than to have, Henry Ruggs, one day he's practicing, the next day he's in, had a drunk driving accident, all that stuff. He's in prison now. Like, to have that stuff go on in a locker room and to keep the guys together and, to have all that stuff go on and to keep them together and keep them battling, keep them playing at the highest level and get them to the playoffs was super, super positive for Rick Bisaccia and wherever he ends up. So I'm going to say that first. And the Raiders, like I said, come off a wild card game. Yesterday this happens. Crazy what a week can make in sports, right? In the NFL. And the Raiders truly, they go into an off season, like I kind of just noted a little, a couple minutes ago, with the questions. With a lot of kind of hot questions that are, going to be answered, I expect, soon, and are going to be answered depending on what they decide to do with the new GM and ultimately with the new coach and what he wants to do. Because this kind of has the makings, and I understand they just got to the playoffs this year, and for a team that the past couple seasons, struggled to get there, they were kind of like in a Cardinals situation. They started off strong, then they blew it late. Start off strong, blow it late. Start off strong, blow it late. This year they started off strong. They almost blew it, but they won 4 straight to end the year, and they went 10-7, and they're in. We all know how that went. I feel like now, especially with the firing of Mike Mayock, Raiders might be heading for a little bit of a rebuild, maybe a little bit of a reset. And I do think, do I think Derek Carr returns next year as Raiders quarterback? Yes. I do think, though, that Raiders might look outside, kind of outside the box here, maybe bring in a coach that wants a little bit more youth. Maybe bring in some guys. I don't necessarily agree with them entering maybe a little bit of a rebuild and maybe restarting a little bit because they just got to the playoffs this year. Like, they've been working for that the past couple seasons. They finally got the roster. They got to the playoffs. And now you're just going to, reset it all. You're just going to restart it all. But it seems like the way they're going could show you that Derek Carr's future is definitely not safe. And maybe the new coach is going to want to come in here, have his own quarterback, bring in his own people, bring in his own players, and build the foundation and thing on his own. Because this is kind of the foundation, and this team is built off of what Gruden and Mayok did. And when a new coach comes in, he's going to want to do his own thing. So Derek Carr's automatically, that makes Derek Carr a possible victim of losing his spot as quarterback on the Raiders. Like I said, do I think it's going to happen? Do I think he's going to leave? No, but I definitely think the Raiders are looking into that. I truly think that, Davis is looking into possibilities of restarting and taking a little bit of a step back. Do I think they're going to do a wholesale change and blow this thing all up? No. But maybe they bring in a new, maybe they believe it's time to move on from Derek Carr, bring in a new quarterback. Maybe they move on from a Derek Carr and draft somebody or go all out and break the bank for one of these other quarterbacks. Maybe they do that. But this firing of this GM does come by a little bit of a surprise, not too much, just because I think when John Gruden resigned and you had the whole interim and all that stuff, I think we all can agree the GM was probably going to be out sooner rather than later. Which is, in this case, Mike Mayock, 25-24 off of 3 seasons. And Mike Mayock's 3 seasons, to kind of get more towards him at this now, very interesting. It is very hard to judge Mike Mayock's 3 seasons as Raiders GM. Because I'll tell you this, he was very average. Very, very average. And the record shows that. Going 25-24 is almost as average as it gets. Perfectly average would be a 25-25 record, which would be 500. But they were average, 25-24. And in his 3 seasons as head coach, right, you have, in his 3 seasons as head coach, which Gruden, or as GM, Gruden brought him in, right, 3 years. What was it? 7-9, 8-8, 10-7. So Gruden was the coach in 4-12. I don't believe that year Mike Mayock was the guy. I think he came in 2018. They went 7-9. 2019 went 7-9. Then 2020 went 8-8, and 2021 this year they went 10-7. Gruden obviously resigned mid-season. Bisaccia came in. They went 10-7, made the playoffs, finished second in the AFC West. So those were his 3 years with the team. 1 in Oakland, they went 7-9, 8-8, then 10-7. So very average. I know a lot of people might want to, and I kind of did this yesterday too, might want to go to the page and go to the, just the point where it's like, they might want to just go right to the point where they just beat him up and say, oh, he was terrible, he did this and that, he did this and all. I think part of that was because of Gruden. I think he pressured him to a lot of things. I think Gruden took too much control of that organization. I think he brought in a lot of his players that he really wanted and not so much what Mike Mayock wanted. And I think part of the reason is you look at his resume, you look back at these 3 seasons, you look at some of the players that him and Gruden brought in, it's like, wow, how did this guy last 3 years? Because I'll tell you right now, these were some of the guys he brought in. And this is where it's like, did Mayock do a spectacular job? No, not at all. But was part of this, I think, Gruden and maybe some of his wanting so much power? Yes. Do I also think Mayock kind of, buying into Gruden's plan and kind of allowing him to do that? Yeah, it is. Because I think it's a little bit of both. Gruden also giving these guys this money and willing to pay them this much. But these are the Raiders' 2019 free agencies and trade ads. Wide receiver Antonio Brown, 3 years, $50 million. He was cut before the season even began. Okay. Wide receiver Tyrell Williams, 4 years, $44 million. After 2 years, he had 42 catches. Cut after 2 years. Only had 42 catches with the team. Safety LaMarcus Joyner, 4 years, $42 million deal. Cut after 2 seasons. Did not have 1 interception. He is on the Jets and he got injured for the first week. Tackle Trent Brown, 4 years, $66 million, not on the team anymore. So you look at that 2019 class and you look at 3 years, 4 years, 4 years, 4 years, all those contracts. A lot of these guys cut before the season, cut after 2 years, cut after 2 years. Not even with the team anymore. Traded, right? All of that stuff. That is a little bit on Mayock, but I also think part of it is on Gruden. Now, I will kind of go like this. Mayock, I think, had a lot to do with the free agent signings. I think he was willing to spend money. He did. It just never worked out. I think you blame him on that. I think you put more of the blame on Gruden. And maybe I'm wrong on this, but this is just kind of my feel about which each guy, what Gruden and Mayock, what they really were heavy into. I think Gruden had a lot to do with the draft, bringing in, Henry Ruggs, bringing in Damon Arnett, who had some issues off the field. Ruggs obviously not even on the team anymore. I think some of that was Gruden. And I think, the Brown and the Trent Brown, Antonio Brown, Tyrell Williams, and some of those signings, that's Mayock. Because he came in, he spent some money, didn't work out, and it showed. Cut. Cut before the season. Cut after 2 years. Cut after 2 years. Trent Brown's not even on the team anymore. And those are all guys that signed big year deals. Those are all guys that signed multi-year deals that didn't even last their full length. And even when they were playing, they were not playing up to the ability. Because not every player, it's very rare to see a player go through an entire, it's not rare, but there's a lot of times where you see players that don't play through their entire contract. But some, they still might give you solid production. You might sign a guy to a 6-year deal. He might only last 3 years into the deal. Maybe as an opt-out, he decides to opt out, but he still might give you solid production. These players that he signed, these players that he brought in, they didn't even give him anything. Antonio Brown, who they gave him a ton of money, was out before the season even began, and now we all know what Antonio Brown's turned into. I feel like Mike Mayock's tenure with the Raiders these 3 seasons have been a whole lot of what-ifs. What if they never signed Antonio Brown and maybe brought in another big-time receiver? Whole lot of what-ifs. Because I think, if those guys played up to their potential, you're talking about the Raiders being one of the better teams in the league while he's as GM. So a lot went on. Like, this was a very wild, crazy kind of couple seasons, and the record shows a whole lot of ups, a whole lot of downs, a whole lot of kind of inconsistency, but being consistent at being inconsistent, if you know what I mean. 25-24, not bringing in the right people, not drafting the right guys, having a lot of off-the-field incidents with these players, locker room kind of being all over the place. I think Mayock plays a role in that. John Gruden also played a role in that. And I think together, these 3 years have been pretty wild and pretty all over the place for the Raiders. And ultimately, that's why they've moved on from him. And I also think the Raiders are kind of aiming towards a little bit of a restart, maybe, a little bit of a reset, a little bit of let's take a step back, bring in the right people, let them do what they want to do, and not have all this locker room craziness, coaches resigning middle of the year, signing all these big-time free agents and having them only play a season or two or not even playing one game with the team, right? So that's what the Raiders do. Mike Mayock, John Gruden couldn't do that, And the Raiders are looking for somebody that is able to bring in a roster that's going to be able to be consistent and perform at a high level week in and week out. Something that Mayock and Gruden ultimately could not do well together. And Mike Mayock's out as Raiders GM. So Las Vegas Raiders fired general manager Mike Mayock. We thank Mike for his contributions over the last 3 years in helping to form the foundation for the franchise to build upon in its future, the Raiders said in a statement. So not much there, not much of a statement. I think they were looking forward a little bit to moving on and just restarting after all the craziness that went on this year. Mayock spent 3 seasons with the team. The Raiders went 25-24 over that span, reaching the AFC wildcard round this year. Las Vegas will now be looking for both a head coach and GM after John Gruden resigned in October after emails he sent containing negative messages and comments that became public. While Mayock helped assemble a postseason-worthy squad, his personal misfires overshadowed what he did right as team's GM. Like I said, he did miss some things, right? In this first offseason, 2019, Mayock and then head coach John Gruden oversaw a spending spree. The return on the Raiders' investment was minimal, as I read earlier. It wasn't good. It was not good at all. And that's on Mayock, and I think also part on Gruden. Most notably, the franchise sent 2 draft picks to the Pittsburgh Steelers for Antonio Brown, who promptly got a reworked 3-year, $50.1 million extension. Brown didn't play a single snap for the team before getting a release, ending a brief but tumultuous tenure. Gruden and Mayock had an opportunity to reshape the Raiders for the future and ultimately set the team back. Mayock's draft record is mixed as well, which is a trend. Which is a trend. ESPN's Paul Gutierrez noted only 3 of Las Vegas' 18 first-round picks since 2005 have gotten a second contract from the team. The organization has whiffed especially badly in the first round. In 2019, the Raiders reached for Clemson defensive lineman Clelin Ferrell, who fell out of the starting lineup by his 3rd season. Josh Jacobs ran for 1,150 yards as a rookie, but averaged 4 yards per carry in 2020 and 2021. Neither of their 2020 first-rounders is still on the roster. Henry Ruggs was released after he was involved in a car crash that killed 1 woman. He is now also in prison. We all know the incident there. Another reason where it does not a good look on Mayock's tenure. Damon Arnett was also released shortly thereafter, too, after he shared a video in which he threatened somebody while holding a firearm. Alex Leatherwood, the number 17 pick in 2021, struggled as a rookie and had to move to the interior of the offensive line. Mayock didn't find great value in the 2019 4th-rounder Max Crosby and 2019 5th-rounder Hunter Renfrow, did find great value in 2019 4th-rounder Max Crosby and 2019 5th-rounder Hunter Renfrow, though. I apologize. I said didn't. They did. Hunter Renfrow has been really, really a nice acquisition. Was big this season, especially big down the stretch. And Max Crosby's been a nice fit on that defense. Devine Diablo, a 3rd-rounder in the 2021 draft, showed promise. One got the impression that Gruden, who signed a 10-year, $100 million contract to return to the NFL, sideline 2018, may have had the loudest voice when it came to personal matters. So this is what one guy said. Until we separate what Mayock wanted from what Gruden wanted, it's hard to declare his tenure a disaster. He fared well in the mid to late rounds. Raiders made the playoffs this year despite a total chaos. Another guy said really difficult to judge Mike Mayock's tenure with the Raiders because of the power dynamic with Mayock and John Gruden, which is possible. There could have been a power struggle, but still, you could use that as an excuse. I think it was both. Because if that's the case, a power struggle, Gruden should have been out of their way earlier then. If there was a power struggle and Mike Mayock wasn't getting what he wanted, wasn't doing what he ultimately felt was best for the team, disagreed a lot with Gruden should have been out of their way earlier. So, I think it lies on both shoulders of Gruden and Mayock in this situation. Perhaps Mayock deserved the opportunity to work alongside a new head coach and leave more of a stamp on the roster. That's also a possibility. That's not going to be the case, though. Raiders, I think, they're fully clean slate. Instead, the Raiders will have a clean slate on their coaching staff and in their front office in 2022. Throw in the fact Derek Carr is entering the final year of his contract, and there could be major changes coming to the Sin City. I guess that's why they call Vegas. I never knew that. Let's see. Hold on a second. It might be the Sun City. My bad. It's the Sun City. So, I knew that couldn't have been right. Yeah, to the Sun City. So, contract, there could be major changes coming to the Sun City. To Sun City. I'm sorry. So, that's that. Apologize for that. I knew that couldn't have been right. So, Sun City is Vegas. So, it's the truth. We'll see what's happened. It's funny because, like, the 2 years that Vegas has been there, it's been wild. I mean, like, the Raiders, it's been wild. It has been crazy. And, like, that's the part of you where it's like, you wonder, like, just how they didn't fall completely apart. Like, they changed, obviously, teams. Last year was COVID. They finished the year bad. They went 8-8. This year, their coach resigned, and they still, like, keep their head above water. It's pretty remarkable. So, but pretty remarkable if you think about it. Like, everything they've gone through to still keep their head above water and be a playoff team not only gives you credit to Rick Bisaccia, but the guys in the locker room for sticking together, because they truly did. So, that's what I got for the Raiders and them firing and moving on from their GM, Mike Mayock. And now, let's get to the New York sports update and the NHL and NBA and college basketball and what's going on in the world of sports tonight. We got the Timberwolves and Knicks. I will give the Timberwolves the win. And the Warriors Pistons, give me the Warriors. As for college basketball, we got some good games on today. We got Baylor, West Virginia. Baylor looking to snap a 2-game losing streak, which is surprising. I do think Baylor wins against a good West Virginia team, but give me Baylor. We got UConn, Butler. I'll give UConn the win. Ohio State. I apologize. I do not know this team's name. IUPUI basketball. So I apologize for that. That's the team they're playing. Give me Ohio State. They're 33-point favorites. IUPUI is 1-14. So give me Ohio State. Kansas, Oklahoma. I'll give Kansas to win. Loyola, Chicago. Give me Loyola. Loyola, Chicago against Evansville. Give me Loyola, Chicago the win. Houston, South Florida. Give me Houston the win. Texas, Kansas State. Give me Texas to win. Despite Kansas State getting an upset last week, give me Texas to win. Duke, Florida State. This should be a good game. Give me Duke. Texas Tech, Iowa State. Give me Texas Tech to win. Tennessee, Vanderbilt. I think Tennessee is going to come out hot after a loss like that against Kentucky. Give me Tennessee. And Wisconsin, Northwestern. Give me Wisconsin. And as for the NHL, got a good amount of games on tonight. We got the Bruins, Hurricanes. Give me Bruins to win. Islanders, Flyers. Give me the Islanders. Capitals, Jets. Give me Capitals. Senators, Sabres. I'll give Sabres to win. Predators, Canucks, give me Predators. I'll give Predators to win. Stars, Canadians, give Stars to win. And Flames, Panthers, give Panthers to win. And Lightning, Kings, I will give Lightning the win. And as for fantasy basketball, I'll give you what the score is, but I have nobody going tonight. So I'm currently winning 399 to 121. But there's only 2 NBA games on tonight. Timberwolves, Knicks, and Warriors, Pistons. I have nobody from either of those 4 teams. So I'm going to give you the injury update. Bane entered the COVID-19 protocols and won't play Wednesday against the Bucks, and he'll be out for a little bit. And Kelly Oubre, he is questionable. COVID-19 protocols, he is questionable for Wednesday's game against the Celtics. So if Bane is going to be out for a little bit, so I hope that Kelly Oubre is back in the lineup. So this is the second time this season. It's kind of rare to happen. Second time this season where I've had a day where nobody's playing. So only 2 NBA games on tonight, and I've got nobody. I know some people in some people in my league have a lot of people. Yeah, you'll have who you have? You'll have Curry. I'm sure some people have Randall. I'm sure some people have. Drawing a blank. let's look around. So my opponent doesn't have anybody going either, so which is good because I can't worry about them making a comeback or having like 3 players and those 3 players having big games. So Julius Randle, Isaiah Stewart, Kevin Hayes, and Malik Beasley. R.J. Barrett, Draymond Green, Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, Sadiq Bey, Klay Thompson, Cade Cunningham, Kemba Walker, Jonathan Kuminga, Mitchell Robinson, Jordan Poole, Evan Fournier, Anthony Edwards, Jeremy Grant, and then Andrew Wiggins and Steph Curry. So those are the guys that are playing tonight out of the 4 teams that are playing. It's funny with fantasy basketball. Like fantasy football, you'll see times where you'll make 40 acquisitions. I've made 9 acquisitions this season, and we're already 13 games and I've made 9 acquisitions. Fantasy football, what? I know what playoff time is around that 13 game mark. Playoff time, you could make 45 acquisitions. It's just crazy the difference in fantasy football week by week and trying to get your team It's the one thing I say, fantasy football is so much harder because it's week by, that's what football is, like week by week. So, either way, that'll do it for the podcast today. Another good podcast in the books. I wanted to talk about something tomorrow. I forget what it was. Oh, yeah. Tomorrow might be a basketball day. Depending on what happens tonight. If Julius Randle scores 50 points tonight, I probably won't talk about his struggles because he scores 50 points. But if the Knicks, even if the Knicks win tonight, I want to get to Julius Randle because it's been a hot topic around not only New York media, it's been a hot topic throughout the NBA. His name popping up in trade talks, him and his beef with the fans. This is almost like a Javier Baez situation with the Mets. And now he's not a Met anymore. They didn't trade him, but he didn't re-sign with them. And I think the Mets and the fans are fine with that. So I think Julius Randle could be on that same path. I also just want to get to his struggles in general. Leave all the drama outside of it. He's not been playing well. Leave all the drama and trade stuff out of it. Look at his numbers. He has not been playing well. So is a team really going to want to go out and give you a lot for him? Are you going to be able to get a lot? Is he worth it at right now? We'll see. So I want to get to him. There was also rumors out of the Lakers that Frank Vogel is kind of on a game-by-game, day-by-day, day-by-day scouting in terms of his job security right now is very up in the air. They're going to take it game by game, going to take it day by day, and depending on how things go, he might be fired within the next couple days. So that's kind of an up-to-the-minute story that's going to be, you got to watch out. Lakers lose 2 in a row. These next 2 games, there's a chance he's out. Lakers have a really bad performance one night, there's a chance he's gone. That's kind of where it's at right now at the Lakers. He's kind of in a game-by-game situation where it's going to be however games goes. If there's one really bad game, he might not be the Lakers coach anymore. So I wanted to get to that and kind of talk about the Lakers in general. Is Frank Vogel really the issue, or is it just the way they put their roster together, which I said in the beginning of the season was going to be an issue, and it's coming true. A lot of veterans out of their prime, not playing well, injuries, not quick enough and good enough to face these other teams. It is what it is. So we'll see what happens with the Lakers. A lot of drama going on over there. So we'll see. And I also want to get to Julius Randle. So just some possibilities that I'll get to tomorrow. But obviously, things could definitely change throughout the sports world. But definitely want to get to some of those topics. Definitely want to get to Julius Randle, one of the big ones. And Frank Vogel news is pretty crazy that he could be out mid-year. You wonder if the Lakers maybe, if they fire mid-year, that could completely change where you want to go with your season. But we'll see. Anyway, that'll do it for the podcast here today. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.